You're very welcome along to the two-man wall. It was the three-man wall last week. This week, Johnny Ward and Adam Russell were hoping for a four-man wall with Gary Lineker one side and Miguel Delaney the other, but they had a big Twitter spat, so it's just me and Adam. How are you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Johnny. We tried to get like you say, tried to get four men in the wall this week, but yeah, maybe next week.
Poor Gary. He's not. I've had a Twitter spat with Gary Lineker myself in the past, which is absolutely bizarre. But to see Miguel get involved this week was entertaining. But
you have a Twitter spat with everybody though at the minute, don't you?
Mainly myself. But let's get to talk about football. And I want to start with the Premier League briefly because I was talking to you last week about the 5-2 available on Liverpool, and I was like, it's a very tempting price. I watched them against Sheffield United. They were absolutely terrible. They were so bad in the game. They played on the break for a lot of the first half. The only positive was they got the win and so on. But even Alisson looked shaky. So here I am with the boy Flynn Goward chatting the trader chat on Monday, and I see Liverpool have shortened dramatically for the league. And I was like, this league is absolutely bonkers. But Man City's record is so bad so far. Can anyone actually win it?
I feel like with Liverpool, they're the only one that hasn't had a terrible start. I don't think they've obviously played their best, but they're joint top of the league. They're now, they're 5 points ahead of City, 7 points ahead of United. Like they've put a gap between themselves and what you would say would be the expected contenders. I think at this point, we're still waiting for the league to kind of shuffle itself around a bit and sort of go back to some sort of normality. But yeah, I'd still think that Liverpool are in pole position. Like I said, they haven't played that well, but they've still got themselves into a position. And we've seen with Man City, when they haven't played well, they've dropped points. Whereas with Liverpool, they're still picking up points from positions where they've not played that well. Obviously, I think Fabinho going off injured last night is another loss to them.
It is.
And how they respond to that. And as well as obviously Van Dijk will be key for their season. But I think if they can get Gomez and Matip fit for a long period of the season, I think that's a solid enough duo for them to get by. But yeah, we'll see. I hope we're in for a close battle, and I hope we see some other teams, the likes of maybe Leicester or Tottenham, who haven't challenged in a few years, come up and try and push some of the big boys.
Yeah.
Especially we've got such a condensed schedule this year as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the Black Swan theory might come back to play this year with just the strange coronavirus prompted season that we've had and the problems Liverpool and Man City have. Although they did get the job done, both of them in the Champions League last night. What have you made of it so far?
Well, I was also the City are not short of injuries as well. They played well last night, but again, they're not playing strongest opposition in their group. But hey, I think they've got enough depth to move up from where they are now and obviously challenge. But I still put Liverpool in pole position.
Yeah. Now Barcelona, talk to me.
Well, it was obviously interesting to see the president and the board of directors all resign last night. We've known obviously for some time that there's been disgruntlement at the club. Over 20,000 fans had signed a petition for him to leave before the re-election in March, and yeah, what probably wasn't a surprise to see him go. It certainly feels like Messi got his way, and we were talking before the start of the season, and that what Messi seemed to really want, rather than move away, was structural change at the top of the board, and he seemed to have got his way. I mean, in my mind, you might as well just get it over with and make Messi the first ever player president.
President for life.
Like he seems to be the person who makes the decisions. He seems to be the person who has yes or no on transfers. Obviously, he's one of the greatest players ever to play the game.
But he is a footballer.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be treated with some sort of respect. But if anything, I think he's got too much power at the club, and I think long term that's going to be a damage to them. We saw Madrid lose in the Champions League again last night, and we talked again earlier on in the summer that I was predicting that this year would be a huge decline for Spanish football. They've obviously had public financial issues during the coronavirus pandemic, especially Barcelona. And yeah, it just seems like that era of Spanish football dominance is well and truly over, and maybe we're going to go through a lean few years for the Spanish clubs.
If we're going to after time and something that hasn't actually happened yet, again, I'm going to say that I tip Leeds finish in the top half, which is going quite well, Mr. Russell. But they do play Leicester City on Monday. It was one of a couple of kind of fascinating games in the round of fixtures this week, because obviously Man United playing Arsenal as well. I don't think Man United can. I think Man United can consider themselves somewhat in the title race, just because there are doubts about the rest of them at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's probably too early to rule anyone out of the title race.
Can we rule Villa out?
Well, yeah,
You can rule Aston Villa out.
Yeah, you can probably rule Aston Villa out. They're not gonna win the league, are they? I think we saw
Right.
their performance against Leeds last week that they're not going to challenge for the league. I mean, they may finish top half. They might have a good season. They've got a decent squad, but yeah, I think this one, Leeds Leicester on Saturday, is going to be the real test so far for Leeds' credentials in terms of how far can they go this season. They're certainly on track. They've put in some impressive performances. I was sceptical at the start of the season that they'd make a huge impact. Obviously, so far they have, and they've been one of the standout teams. But I think long term, they probably don't have the squad depth to put together a top 6, top 4 challenge.
Well, it's quite startling. They are 6-4 favourites against Leicester. Now, I don't think home advantage matters much at all in these games at the moment. Maybe I'm wrong, but they're 6-4 favourites against a really good side in Leicester. So the Star Sports traders are very respectful of the Bielsa revolution.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one to call, this one from a betting perspective. The teams haven't met since in the Championship in 2014. So there's not really sort of any great form guides to go off in terms of how the two teams will match up. I think it's likely that Rodgers might put a bit of a low block in and set up similar to how they did at Arsenal, whereas we're not going to lose the game, but we might try and pinch it with, a late goal on counter or whatever. If anything, I think Leeds will probably cause them more of a threat going forward than Arsenal did at the weekend. I think, obviously, the way Leicester play is set up to counter-attack, and that's one of their strengths, and it always has been, is being quite direct and getting the ball over the top for Vardy and Barnes and Damari Gray and the likes of. So I think, it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, Leeds put in, I'd say, probably their most complete performance of the season against Villa, with obviously Patrick Bamford was the standout.
Handout, I like that.
Yeah, I was actually looking through some of the Premier League hat-tricks, and what I thought was interesting is 6 of the last 8 Premier League hat-tricks have now been scored by English players.
Wow.
It speaks to the depth of talent that we've got, and there's people on that list like Michail Antonio, like Patrick Bamford, Ollie Watkins, kind of not players that you'd say are like pushing even for an England place, but again, like, it just speaks to the depth of quality, English quality that we've got around at the minute.
I don't know if you watched West Ham and Man City, but obviously it was a good result for West Ham, who've made a decent start to the season. And I have to say, I've watched Liverpool. I didn't watch them last night, but I watched them against PSG and I watched them against Sheffield United, and they more or less had their best team out both nights. And I thought they were very poor. Just something not right there. Now, Thiago wasn't playing on either occasion, but I could see West Ham easily winning that game, 13-2, or certainly going close.
Yeah, I think I've been saying this for the last few weeks about Liverpool, and I don't buy it. I think they're still the best team. I think they're still the best squad. I think they've got the best manager. And I think they've shown in the last 2 seasons that they can win games of football when they're not at their best. I think they'll win again at the weekend. I'm not expecting a surprise.
Also, Manchester United versus Arsenal, the 4:30 game on November 1st. As we get into November, arguably the most depressing month of the year, but it's less depressing if you can start it off with a winner, 11-10. Man United, 13-5 the draw. Arsenal, 9-4. Tough one to call this.
Yeah, it's we obviously saw at the weekend that both of them kind of put in a real defensive performance. It really struck me, though, during the Chelsea game that we've had Solskjaer for, 14, 15 months now, and he still doesn't seem to have a set team or a set plan or a set system to try and get the best out of his players. I'm not sure he knows how to get the best out of Fernandes, Pogba, Donny van de Beek. He's switched from a 3-5-2 to a 4-3-3 to a 4-1-3-2. He has left out the likes of Juan Mata for 8 months. Now, all of a sudden, he's flavour of the month and is undroppable. And I think with Arsenal, we've seen that they've got a clear system, under Arteta and a clear game plan. But what we saw at the weekend is it could be a little bit too defensive. They didn't really have a go at Leicester at the weekend, and really they should have done. Whether long term in these sort of mid-table matches against mid-table opposition is 5-3-2 too defensive. I feel like they didn't get enough players into attacking areas against Leicester. They didn't get people in between the centre halves. They didn't really cause any problems from the wing backs. So we could see a similar game this weekend on Sunday when they could cancel each other out. I think we could see a bit of a stalemate. I think it's definitely going to be a low score in my opinion. Under 1.5 goals is 3-1 at starsports.bet. And to be honest, I could also be tempted by under 0.5 goals at 11-1. So it's a reasonably big price. Obviously, Arsenal-Leicester was only 1-0 at the weekend and United-Chelsea was 0-0. So I'm expecting we could see a similar game. If I had to pick a winner, I'd probably go United at 11-10.
Fair enough. But you did reference the fact that your beloved Bolton were playing against Bradford last night. And, of course, fans of the Premier League who aren't that old will remember the fact that both of these were in the Premier League not that long ago. You're now in the 4th tier. And your goalkeeper and manager were in the news during the week. Yeah,
it's actually... it's pretty like us to be in the news for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Ian Evatt came out on Saturday.
Just man up, Adam. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it's his choice of words, isn't it? Clearly, yeah. He's come out since and he's apologised and he knows he's put his foot in his mouth. And to be honest, I doubt it'll be the last time during his tenure as Bolton manager that he does that. He likes.
Do you like the big man?
I'm not sold on it. Last night we beat Bradford, and it was probably, particularly in the first half, probably our best performance of the season.
Pushed up to 16th in the table.
Yeah, he talks a big game though for somebody whose biggest achievement is taking Barrow into the Football League. So it's a bit counterintuitive for him really to tear down his only goalkeeper. We've got a 17-year-old backup keeper and 38-year-old Matt Gilks, who's kind of registered as a part goalkeeper coach, part player. So it's a bit counterintuitive for him to tear down basically his only choice goalkeeper. It was even more alarming, I would say, though, to hear Fleetwood manager Joey Barton as the voice of reason and common sense. But that's something I've never seen before. But fair play to Krellin. He came out last night. We were 1-0 up with about 20 minutes to play, and he saved a penalty, made a big penalty save, and we went on to win the game at 1-0. So, yeah, it's good to see the young lad bounce back from what's probably been a very sort of unusual and difficult week for him. But I think sometimes that's what we've got to remember is being a manager is a tough job.
It is. I actually have some sympathy for him. I'm big on mental health and all of that. But if you're cut from an old cloth, you say these things. He said he should have said something like step up. I mean, if he said step up, even the keeper wouldn't have been moved by that. So, the fact that the keepers responded quite well as well.
That's what he meant. What he meant was not, he needs to man up.
I need you to man up, Adam, and give us a winner. Give us something for this weekend.
Okay, well, let's go back to Leicester and Leeds then. If we're picking out a winner, I'm going. Obviously, we've seen two informed strikers, Jamie Vardy and Bamford. So I would go both of them to score any time is 26-5 at the minute with Star Sports.
Okay,
a nice 5-1 there, really. I think Leeds have scored in 18 out of the last 20 matches, so you'd expect them to score again. Leicester, not quite so prolific. They've actually failed to score in 7 of the last 20. But both teams scored in 6 out of 7 of those occasions where they did score. So
beautiful.
I think Vardy and Bamford, 26-5. I was going to build a bet for this one. I've gone Leicester to win, both teams to score, Jamie Vardy to score anytime, and over 2.5 first half goals. I'm expecting a bit of action in this one. And that, again, came out 21-5. So.
What can possibly go wrong? And best of luck to Dundalk, the Irish champions taking on Arsenal in the Europa League on Thursday. Thanks a million, Adam.
Thank you, Johnny.
And that was the two-man wall. No Gary Lineker and no Miguel Delaney.